Hi everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Alion. Hi everyone. Warm welcome to my YouTube channel, Making It in Austria. I'm your host, Adela Çaçi, and today live from Vienna. And my guest today is beautiful Alion Çaçi. Alion, warm welcome.
Hi. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you for joining me on this Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
It shows the commitment, right? So the ones who stay Friday afternoon. The
Well,
true
it either
one.
shows the commitments or it shows that we got nothing else to do on a Friday afternoon. So it's one of those.
Yeah, that's a good summary. Alion, I would like you to introduce yourself a little bit to our audience. Tell us
Yeah.
where you have started, what you're doing at this point of time.
I assume I'm like many of your listeners. I'm also pretty new to Vienna. I'm not from Austria. I'm from Albania. I moved here almost 4 years ago as an international student. Though the purposes was also to study, but also my partner moved here before me. So it was kind of a match that I've always wanted to study something abroad. And I finally decided to. Now I'm almost done with my studies. I've studied theater, film, and media studies at the University of Vienna. So my background is in film and media. That's what I was doing before moving here. I was a screenwriter in TV shows. And then I decided to leave everything and just was motivated enough to struggle with German. So I moved to a German-speaking country to have an easier life. Yay! Anyway,
Kids will love it, so they will be grateful for that. Kids.
yeah, true. The beginnings where I have so many even funny stories about my struggle with German that I couldn't understand, I couldn't speak, but I had to learn because my studies were in German. So I had to go through these preparatory courses of the University of Vienna. I had to reach C1 and have an exam. So I had to do that. I learned, and I must say that at the end of the day, I still learned more German after the course when I started actually working and practicing in it rather than what I learned during the course, unfortunately. It's a bit of a mix, and I have mixed feelings about the German courses overall because they do focus a lot on grammar, but at the end of the day, we both know, I'm assuming, that when you go to work, no one cares about the die, das, unless you're a journalist writing in German. But if German is just the communication language, no one will stop you and correct your grammar. You just need more vocabulary, I'm assuming, and more practice. But anyway, I'm not a linguistic professor. This was just my experience, maybe. So it was during the pandemic that I moved here. Another funny aspect of it, yes. It felt, of course, very isolated. It was a lockdown, and you know that Austria kept it even longer. The longer was probably the last country in Europe who removed the masks. So I wanted to do something that was a bit more active. I wasn't a person that was used to stay indoors. I was a person that was coming from sort of a lifestyle with many friends, with a big network, and I was always in touch with people, and I would love to do that still. So I started these little meetup groups on Meetup that were hiking groups. I love hiking. It's been a while that I haven't been hiking, but I love it. And I was organizing these trips around Vienna. And there I actually, because I didn't speak German, everyone was speaking English. And I realized that there's a very, very, very nice international community in Vienna, and it's huge. It's gotten huge. It was huge before. It's gotten bigger. And what I realized that all these people were not isolated cases. The group was big, and each of them had cool story or interesting story to tell. So I thought, okay, I'm anyway listening. So I got to meet these people, and why not starting a podcast? It's pandemic. Everyone's starting a podcast. So that's how I got to start the podcast. Back then was called Vienna International's podcast. So I invite people and we share stories just like you do in your podcast. And then later it got developed a little bit more. It turned into the International, what is also behind me right now. And now it's also turned into a bigger media. But maybe if you allow me, I would like to explain about that a little bit later. But I don't want to be the only one to talk, so we can have a conversation here.
That's a good point. Did we interview similar people? So do you have people that I have interviewed and you interviewed on
I
your
think
podcast?
so. I saw you interviewed Estefania
Yes.
Pignon.
Yes.
And it's funny because she's now a friend of mine because of the podcast, not just a friend of mine, but also when we did the first printed magazine of the International, Estefania and her colleague of Niva were the two people in the magazine cover. So
cool.
Sometimes it's funny how things turn out.
It's, as you said, it's getting bigger and bigger, but some people do appear more often, as you said. And I did as well. Making It in Austria was started 3 years ago. So when it was also in a pandemic, and one of the reasons was, there were several reasons, but the first one was about the Making It in Austria, seeing all these panels, about whatever topic, but it was mostly Austrians, and I felt like there's a perspective that is missing.
Yeah.
Right. Because we are not that small community anymore. So it's like, if you take all, the internationals, expats, immigrants, etc. So it's a different world that we kind of have had to go through. That's one of the things. And the second one was when I started talking about my own career and my own way of coming to Austria, I got lots of questions. So I did a lot of these events and workshops and webinars, and people were curious. So, but how did you manage without language, and how about this, and how about that? And then at some point of time, I was like, okay, how do I scale this? Because my story is just one of the stories and one of the cases, basically. It's just, one of the examples, but I had friends who came from other, continent, and they came with the job, or they came as a student, and they came with the kids, and without, and all these different varieties that were along the way. So I said, let's try to capture those ones as well. Sure, so basically, because there's so much that we can talk about.
Definitely. But that's what I keep telling people, but this thing cannot go on any longer. We cannot be ignored as we don't exist, or as we're a very small group. It's 35% of Vienna's population. It's 1/5 of Austria's population. There's a lot of people already, and we cannot be considered like we're not in transition here. We decided to live here.
Exactly.
So we are settled here now, and we deserve to have a voice as well. And that's why someone was asking me before coming to the podcast yesterday, when I was telling that I would be in your podcast, and they were telling me, how would you go there? Isn't Adela your competition? I said, well, no, she's not. We share the same goal and cause and purposes. We'd like to. I cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone, and we need to be as many people as possible working for the same goal, so we can achieve the goals. There's no competition in this. It's just cooperation.
True. And thanks for mentioning that, because I'm also personally and professionally a strong believer of, collaboration and partnerships than competition. And as you said, the market is so big, and each one of us has a network that can, that we can distribute this throughout. And there are several ways. And this thing, first of all, brings me a lot of joy. Right, so that's quite important, and that is one of the reasons that I see the value of it. You see, people coming together. You see people, starting businesses together. You see them coming together and then starting, their own together workshops, even though they are all, both of them, business coaches. You would say like, oh, okay, I'm fighting for my piece of bread, and you do your kind of things, but they keep coming together. And I continue doing that over the years, even though I do have a full-time job and have a family and a couple of other things that I'm passionate about. But this, for me personally, was also a way to, get to know this space, get to know people through, truly meeting them like yourself, and meeting them in person, organizing some small events where they can come together. And so it's a lot of work for many other podcasts. So if someone is thinking, oh, there's no point in doing something in this space because it's already done, I assure you it's not. There are many people that are doing great things that are to be discovered. And on that note, I also, when I started the podcast, I said I'll start from people that don't have media coverage. right? So I didn't, if you have seen it, so I interviewed, for instance, Selma Prodanovic, but way later on, so like some months ago. So now she has launched the Selma Effect. And I was joining the event, the business talk that she gave for the businesswoman of Bosnia and Herzegovina, that I'm also an active member of. And I said, like, I would really like to capture your story, and I would like to, you know, bring you to the audience. And people were asking me, like, when you will have Selma on your show. And I said, okay, now is the perfect time. But you know, the show exists for the last years, so I was like, okay, let's find people that, you know, doing some great things, and they have some certain, you know, challenges that they face, and they've overcome it. And so how did they do it? And people don't see them, you know, they don't have, you know, blasting team behind, and then, like, you know, doing them, supporting them along the way and so on. But they're, you know, on their own, brought something, did something. And yeah, so that's also quite a lot of joy, I would say.
No, yeah, definitely. I've also seen how, even though we just started also with international, I can't believe how many people are already just liking the idea of having similar things here. And I imagine the faces, because that's also the face I had when I found out, when I first moved here. It was basically the last month of Metropole, of Magi's magazine, and I was so happy that it existed, though things didn't go well. And now I realize that I'm happy that other people are feeling the same way I felt when I first met, that there is something that they finally understand. And there is this, how to make it clear to other people that German, it's not something you learn overnight. A network is not something you build overnight. It takes a long time. And especially exactly what you said, you have a full-time job, you have a family, and you have your side gigs, let's call them that way. And when will a person have the time to systematically learn German as well, and reach a level to speak fluently and write fluently and attend events in German, or find jobs in German? It's difficult. It's a difficult language. How should we explain that it's not easy? If you moved here a year ago, some people told me, we've seen, like, when we tell them we moved here a year ago, they're like, yeah, you should have learned German by now. No, it's very hard. It takes time when it's difficult.
You need to have, I think you need to have the environment. You really need to have the environment to, and a supportive environment. So not someone like, oh, why you don't know this, but really the way how to, you know, lift you up and give you the hand along the way. So for me, the first job, so I did these German classes. So when we moved back in 2013, so I started with intensive classes at the Deutsche Akademie. And in the meantime, I got my job. I, you know, got the red, white card. And I started my first job as a sales trainee. You know, the first day at work, it was, as you said yourself, so you learn German in the classes, and you do a lot of, you know, grammar, and a lot of reading and a lot of writing, which is quite important at the end of the day. But you do very small conversation slots. And that really depends on the group that you have. So, you know, the teacher cannot make you, so they have to be really creative, and not all of them are, so let's face it. And not all the group is open as you believe it. So like, oh yeah, I came here, I paid it on my own. So my idea was, I came here, I paid it on my own. I'm here because I want to, and I have a limited time to find a job. So I really need to take all the opportunities. So anyhow, when I started, when the first day of jobs, it was like, you know, typical, the company introduction. So there are like people coming from different departments, and they are presenting the company and what they do and da. And then Horst was talking in Wienerisch. So it was the three of us in this round. So the three trainees, so Marie, Tanya, and myself. So Marie was German, but she's from Hamburg and studied in Passau and lived in Vienna for a year or two. Tanya is a Croatian who studied in Burgenland, but did her master's in English and moved to Vienna for this job. And I myself just, you know, moved and learned some German in the classes. And then I was like, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me, basically. And then I asked them, the two of them, do you follow what he's saying? Because I cannot. So my German is okay-ish, but what he's explaining, so the documents are in German, nicely done, as you know, but when people talk, they don't talk the way you learned in the classes. They talk the way they talk at home with friends. So the way they brought up, no matter where they are. If they are brought up in Vienna, they will talk this way. If they are brought up in Tyrol, they will continue talking Tyrolish, let's say that way. So, and I said, I don't understand, Horst, I don't follow you. And the other said, I don't follow either. So then we basically nicely approached him and said, look, can you please talk in Hochdeutsch so that we can follow? Otherwise, we're just basically lost and we're wasting everyone's time, which they did then, and they accepted it and they supported us. So that's why the environment. So imagine if I would be working in an English-speaking environment. Then forget it. My husband was working in his industry in English, in English language. Most of them were speaking English because there were many expats in his team. And then, he did the classes like you did at the university. And later on, he realized, like, look, I don't practice it. When you come home, we were the two of us talking in Bosnian. So we speak English at work, you talk Bosnian at home, you meet some people, and over the weekends you talk between English and German, and that's it basically. So how do you do that over the years? So environment is super, super important. So that's
it's also, I would emphasize, because I don't want it to sound easy, because now we know German and we speak German. It has been tough, and you know that it's not easy when you're a foreigner. The doors won't just open, and I don't mind saying this loudly, that we are seeing different when we come here, and we are automatically not prioritized when we're asking for things, or at least in most cases. So what's the deal? If you see that what it takes is to have a network and to know people, so they know your name or your face, then do that. We don't move here to change the system. We move here to have a better life, make a better life for yourself. If you want to learn German, just go on that Friday afternoon event, that no matter that if it's in German, but it's still a funny event, no one will judge you anyway. Maybe you won't make friends in one event, but if you go there often, or if you go often in different events, that works. Events for me are the number one thing that work.
True.
If you meet people and they see you and you're polite to them, even if you mix English with German, it's fine. I realized that slowly people start to not pay attention to things they were paying attention in the beginning about you, only because they get to know you better, and that's what it takes. Just give people a chance to get to know you, and then they will also be more open to talk to you in a German that you can understand and actually
you always
learn.
have people that will say, yeah, you're German, and there will always be people. I remember when we went to register ourselves to the OGK, I think it's for the e-card, for the insurance. Back then it was for the students, and then I tried to talk to her in English, and she said, "You're in Austria, you should know German." Fine.
I'll press the button now because you asked for it.
I just moved here. I didn't even move. I'm just registering my paper. I got this registration paper. So, but there will be people, and I do still nowadays, think like when I talk, especially with seniors, Austrian seniors, like they're where we live. So I do carefully think about their didas. I don't know why. When I talk with you, if I would talk to you, or if I would talk to people like my age, or around 5-10 years ish, but when I talk to the seniors around here, so who are like living here for ages, they are Viennese, I do consciously. I just noticed today, I consciously level up. I don't know if it has to do something with the way we are brought up in Bosnian culture. It's like you pay respect to the elderly people. You pay respect to the owners. You stand up. You greet. You meet. You ask how we're doing and everything and so on. So but I noticed myself that when I meet my neighbors who are like 70 years old and so on, I do stand up taller. I do talk more German. You know, I consciously think about it. Okay, you know, how I level up.
To be honest, I've completely given up the did their das thing. I just don't care anymore. As long as they understand what I mean, to me it's fine. We went through such huge stress about the did their das and turned out to be nothing because no one cared. And even if they look at me differently because of that, I still don't care. And that's something you learn with time, and you start realizing that you're not inferior to the people who have German as their native language because it's just a native language. They didn't work for it. That's how they were born. That's how your Bosnian language is, and that's how my Albanian language is. On the other side, we come here with so many different language skills, not just one or two, not just our native language. So I started to see this a bit differently. Hold on a second. I will stop looking at some people just like they're superior to me just because their German is better and because it's native. That's not the way it works. They are people, and we breathe the same, we eat the same. I shop at the same supermarkets as they do. We pay the public transportation the same. We pay the exact same taxes. We're not paying less taxes for non-speaking German or for being foreigners, as long as we contribute the same way and to this country and to these people, we should get the same way, the same things back. I mean, we are already excluded from the decision-making point. We don't vote, but at least in social aspect, we deserve to be treated the same way.
True. Alion, so you mentioned some meetups, events, a lot of things that you do, and people can meet with you and get to know what you're doing. So how do you do it nowadays? So, you know, it's been a while since you're in Vienna. So how do you do it nowadays? You know, you have established kind of yourself and
So
your network.
I can summarize it very quick. So I'm not doing the meetup I was previously doing anymore. Not because I don't like them. I usually like to go back to the things I started because that's very organic and that's very real. So I'd like to go back to doing events again and meetups again. It's just not ready. The project is not ready yet. Thanks to the Vienna Business Agency, the international now is a real thing. It's a company, and we have registered GmbH, which is called Crossroads Media GmbH, and we have 2 people employed because of that, and I'll be forever grateful. So we publish daily news in English on our website, theinternational.at, on Instagram with the same name and LinkedIn with the same name. The plan is that we will continue updating the features. I'll go back to doing the podcast, which I haven't done since November. I just want to format it a bit different for the future. And I'm also going to go back. I'm not going to go back. I'm going to start creating a new format for events. And now that you told me that you also are into management or creation organization, probably I would like to talk to you also when the moment comes. Then possibly then we will also print the magazine from time to time.
Cool. That's a lot of.
But maybe there is also very, very mild and sweet announcement that I can make, because today is the first day, actually right after the call with you, I'm gonna launch the first newsletter. So if someone doesn't have the time or doesn't want to add us on Instagram or LinkedIn, can just subscribe for the newsletter. We send it once a week. We will send it once a week every Friday, and we will send the most important news of the week. If they don't think that those are important enough, feel free to follow on Instagram and LinkedIn and to choose your own news, or to visit the website. So we have plenty of news there as well.
Cool. Over the last year, especially this year, I became fond of newsletters.
Really?
Really, I moved away from last year in August from Instagram, from daily use, and Facebook as well, for several reasons. And then I found I had a couple of newsletters that I was signed up for, and I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah,
I honestly do. You sit down with your coffee, you read it through. There's a nice summary. I catch up nice names, ideas, and so yeah. It's coming back.
It's definitely very convenient. And talking about convenience, we also introduced this week which is now currently the only narrated news version in Austria. Even I don't know why, but even German-speaking media outlets don't do that. But so a journalist writes a long form article, and I understand that not a lot of people have the chance to read it because it's long and it should keep you focused. So we offer a narrated version of that, and it's the writer himself or herself who narrates and records it. It's not like a podcast, it's just an audio version of the news article, and you can combine with reading or listening to it, however it works best for you.
Just before we wrap up,
Sure.
how do you see the ChatGPT and AI influencing your guys' work?
I wouldn't say it's influencing time-wise. It's helping us save time. We use it a lot for translation. That's actually the main thing we use it for, translating. We don't use it on research for the news because it's not good. Principally, I'm not against AI, implementation of AI, and people before used to go to the public library and spend 2 weeks to find just a paragraph, and then someone introduced Google, everyone used it, everyone is using it, so what's wrong with Google? And now we have ChatGPT, which is a better research tool. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't know why all this debate.
Yeah, why all the buzz? I don't know. I scroll every now and then through LinkedIn, and there are different aspects of it. I don't use it that much, to be honest, and I don't use it for writing writing my post on LinkedIn or comments and stuff like that. I know some people do use it and they find it very meaningful to rephrase. And I understood that when they use it more and more, then it gets more and more authentic. If I can use the word authentic, so it speaks their sort of language. It's kind of sort of a personal assistant on their own that they have created and that they chat with. So I think it's a useful tool. It's a definitely useful tool. But
since you ask about ChatGPT, and that was mainly my opinion, maybe I should correct myself just slightly here, because overall AI, I agree that there is a high degree of danger. For example, when I see some deep fakes of presidents saying things through AI, that's messed up. Or these stories that people are receiving calls from family members who are not actually family members to send money. That's dangerous, and that's when I start also throwing myself a little bit on the side of people that are against it. But it's a developing thing, and I think it's too early to strongly decide if we are for it or against it, because we still haven't seen it really. It's been just 2 years that this new method has been introduced, and it's so generative AI. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they are right that we should stop it now before it gets worse, or I'm not an AI expert. I'm just sharing my opinion on this.
I mean, we are the users at the end of the day.
Yes,
so it's
exactly.
like trying to support your daily task with some sort of be it a text with a text or video and so on. So it's trying out. It's to be curious. I mean, that's also quite important, right? We need to try it out ourselves, and I personally try it out every now and then. It's useful, but as you said, it's a big topic. It's a big topic. But thanks for sharing your views.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, what do you read when you don't read the internationals?
Now I don't even read the international in information where I just read to find if it's the right thing to say. Anyway, I'm currently reading 2 books. One, because I try to mix literature and so fiction and non-fiction. The non-fiction one is called David and Goliath. I think it's from Mark. I forgot the writer's name. I didn't know him before, but the book is interesting, and it tells underdog stories and how they got big. The second one is a book from Henry Miller. It's called Black Spring. I never heard about this book before, but because I delivered a paper at the university, my professor, Professor Frida, recommended me this book because she found it very similar to the topic I was discussing in my paper. And she was right, it's very similar, and I'm enjoying it. It's a book of short stories.
Oh, excellent. So Alion, thank you so much for being my guest today. It felt like I'm your guest and we kind of
I felt very well talking to you. Thank you very much.
It was like a window when we are discussing. It was most of
like we look like policy makers. Like we decide the fate of the internationals.
Please don't judge us or
Yes.
if you do it with an open mind and heart. Thanks everyone for watching. Alion, wish you a lot of success with all your ventures, and looking forward to meeting you anytime soon. And all of you, thanks for watching. Follow up Alion. I will put his contacts as well of all of this work, what he's doing under the YouTube channel. So please do reach out and get in touch with him.
Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thank you.
Bye.